As I See It by Michael Coren. Now, most of you know Michael Coren, but if you don't, let me just read a little bit from the beginning of the book. He, of course, is the host of the Michael Coren Show on CTS television, which you see in Ontario and Alberta, also if you watch on satellite and digital throughout Canada. For a while, he was the co-host of Two Bald Guys with Strong Opinions. Now, we got two bald guys here again, but I'm not Stephen LeDrew. On CFRB in Toronto, he's a weekly columnist. He's published every Saturday with the Toronto, Ottawa, Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg Sun, and also the London Free Press. He's a columnist for Women's Post. He also is a regular contributor to the National Post, Catholic Insight, and he's a best-selling author of 12 books, including biographies of G.K. Chesterton, H.G. Wells, Arthur Conan Doyle, J.R.R. Tolkien, and C.S. Lewis. I mean, he's received a number of honorary. You know, I'd like to receive just one honorary doctorate. I mean, you've got several here. I'm amazed at that.
You can have one of mine.
Oh, could I have one of yours?
Easy.
That'd be terrific. It's such an accomplishment. I was impressed. You won the Ed Murrow Award for radio broadcasting in 2005. I mean, this is really something. Welcome, Michael. You're a busy guy. Appreciate you coming our way.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
The book is a compilation of material that you've written over the years, and I want to ask a question right off the top. Are you a Canadian equivalent to Rush Limbaugh?
Oh golly, no! I have nothing like his money.
Are you a right winger?
It's a good question, actually. No, you know, people say to me, are you left wing or right wing? And I have this sort of this standard answer, which may be a bit glib, but I say I don't look left or right, look up. Right. I can say it on this show, and I'm a Christian, and that informs everything I am and do. It doesn't mean I'm a good Christian. I fail miserably, I suppose, a lot of the time, but my politics are formed by that. I believe in forgiving third world debt. I do not support the build-up of the arms trade. I happen to be opposed to the war in Iraq. You don't have to be as a Christian, but I am. I don't think materialism is a very good thing. The free market, I don't know if it works or not, which would make me really be on the left. On the other hand, I believe life begins at conception, ends at natural death. The only place for a sexual relationship is within marriage between one man and one woman. So that puts me more on the right. No, I'm not Rush Limbaugh. I hope I conduct myself, with all due respect to him, in a slightly different manner. And I will not naturally be a supporter of any one political party, because there is no party that represents my views. How can one party represent the views of a Christian person?
You also have a low view of Hollywood, of celebrities.
You're very low, yeah.
I mean, you diss Geldof and Bono and Madonna and...
well, not Bono so much. I do have some respect for Bono, because I think he's achieved something.
But he doesn't pay his taxes.
He doesn't pay his taxes in Ireland, and if you know Ireland, there are countries that do need, some cities that do need help. I have no time for Madonna, in contempt, actually. But Bob Geldof, sometime, Bono, sometime more, but most of the Hollywood industry, and we see it at the moment with the film festival.
You're very hard on that little Avril Lavigne. You just nail, you know.
Oh, she's a pop singer, and she'll come and she'll go. It's just the pretentiousness of the lyrics, you know, and they're far worse than her. I think in one of the columns I do make fun of one of the songs. It's just 14-year-old, 15-year-old girls thinking that Avril Lavigne is profound. No, Nietzsche is profound. Avril Lavigne is just silly.
Yeah. Maybe when you're 15, nobody's profound. I don't know.
Oh, when I was 15, I was rotund, but not profound.
You've really been strong on same-sex marriage.
Well, certainly when the debate was occurring, it's very interesting about that issue, because if you said, I support same-sex marriage, we must redefine marriage, that was a moderate position. If you said, I believe marriage is one man and one woman and we shouldn't change the definition, you're an extremist and you won't shut up about the issue. All I was doing was responding at the time of the debate. Marriage is extraordinarily important. It's a fundamental of our society, of any society. It's not confined to a religious sensibility. It's based on natural law. And I did oppose it. And you know what is fascinating about Canada? You can say, close down a hospital, bomb a city, and people will say, oh, really, that's interesting. But if you say marriage is one man and one woman, you're a fascist. How dare you say that? It's a very interesting country. It's actually quite conservative in many of its economic policies and foreign policy. When it comes to social issues, it's very, very liberal.
You also have a low view of Obama.
No, I don't think that's fair. I think Barack Obama is a very impressive man. I have a low view of those people who worship Barack Obama. it's become fascinating. There was an interview just before the election, and a woman spoke about her faith. This is a true story. And she said, you know, I tried to pray, but I couldn't feel the presence of God, so instead I prayed to Barack Obama. Now, I'm not saying that's typical, but there is an adoration, an obsession. Look, Guantanamo Bay, still there, still working. Troops, just as many, if not more, in Iraq and Afghanistan. What has really changed? I wasn't a huge fan of George Bush. Some of what he did I approved of, not all. The presidents I've admired have been people like Eisenhower, who saw war and said, it's awful, we must try and stay out of war whenever possible, who wasn't a fan of empire, who said there's a military-industrial complex out there. George W. Bush, for all he did wrong, his commitment to Africa and the fight against AIDS was magnificent. He hasn't had enough praise for that. I think mainstream media, if you like, tends to see Democrats as being naturally good, when I see politicians as being naturally pretty similar to each other.
You do refer to Obama's victory as the victory of style over substance.
Yes, I do believe that, yes.
Now, do you see any substance emerging?
It's hard to know. So far, there hasn't been much. These Kennedy-like phrases, they're very portentous, but what do they actually signify? I do believe in healthcare reform. We'll see if that is achieved. His foreign policy, look, when he made the statement, the West is not at war with Islam, this is a good example. No, the West is not at war with Islam. But the real question was not asked. The question is Islam at war with Western values? When there are threats to bomb innocent people, just recently in the UK, the biggest terrorist plot ever, didn't happen, thank the Lord, when a large number of people of Muslim faith would prefer to live under Sharia law, we have to ask fundamental questions. It's no good going to Turkey and saying, rah, rah for Islam. I think Barack Obama is wrong in this. He must reassure the Muslim world, we're not at war with you. However, if someone wants to convert to Christianity, you cannot kill them, you cannot persecute them. You must stop persecuting Christians in Egypt. You must, in Gaza, allow Christians to have free expression. You must allow your primary holy text to be critiqued, even if you find it offensive. This is the world of pluralism. Barack Obama doesn't seem to be willing to address these issues, which are far more important, these grand statements about not being at war with Islam.
As I'm reading your book, I'm impressed with the people who impress you, starting with your grandfather. Tell me about him.
This is my mother's father. He was extraordinarily ordinary and typical. I'm sure all sorts of people watching will see a replica of this man in their lives. Ordinary working class man. He was married when he was 19. By the time he was 20, he had 3 children. By the time he was 28, he was off fighting in the Second World War. He wasn't a particularly educated man. When he was told you have to go off and fight, he didn't say, well, I'm not sure if my conscience tells me. He says, okay. And off he goes for 4 years. And he never spoke about the war, and he didn't go to reunions, and he did his duty. And then he came back, and he was a good family man and a good father and a good grandfather, and he wasn't perfect, but he was good and he was decent, and if only we had far more like him today.
Decorated in the Second World War and very modest. Where did he live?
He lived in the East End of London and died in the East End of London. Never really moved much beyond the place of his birth, actually, apart from during the Second World War when he goes off to the desert in Italy and Sicily.
Your father was a cabbie.
My father was a London taxi driver, those black cabs that you see. Yeah. He was a child of immigrants, and that was one of the few jobs he could have. He worked very hard.
Immigrants from?
From Eastern Europe. My father was Jewish, very secular. Not a great fan of organized Judaism, not a great fan of organized religion, actually, to be quite candid with you, although fully understood, well, no, not fully understood, fully respected me when I told him I was a Christian. I don't think he fully understood it, but at the same time, wonderful for you, Mike, if that is what it works for you. And he didn't say that in some liberal, patronizing way, but I can't sit here and pretend he fully understood. That wouldn't be honest of me. But he always supported me in it. I
love the picture of him driving his cab and you sitting in the luggage compartment.
Well, I was very little at the time. Yeah. I couldn't fit in now. Yeah. In those days, I'm sure it wouldn't pass safety standards today. No, but at the front, you put all the suitcases, and he cut down the chairs of one little chair and rested in the front. And I would sit there, 3 or 4 years old, and we'd go to soccer matches together, and I'd look up at him driving. And I always remember that image.
Tell me about your mum.
My mum, again, from the East End of London, poor family, not impoverished, but a poor family. Stay-at-home mum, I know we're told today that it's impossible to have a parent at home. I don't know if I completely embrace that concept. No. Not much money, but a great deal of love. And again, not perfect, for goodness sake, but a mother. Tea on the table at 4 o'clock when I got home from school. Wisdom. Not intellectual brilliance, but wisdom. And very important this in my development, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, being read to me by my teacher when I was 4 or 5 years old. I ran home and I said, Mom, I've got to get this book. And she got on the bus to a store in the next town, found the book, brought it home and gave it to me. I read it all night, and I'm absolutely convinced that the seeds of my Christian faith were planted there by my mother.
And also the seeds maybe of your biographical skill set. C.S. Lewis obviously was a key player in your thought processes and your development.
Enormous influence.
You've written a biography about him. Just give us a quick overview of your view of C.S. Lewis.